Who are you? Mitch growled, irritated, but then he smirked, saying, "The moment my sword pierces your chest, everything will come back to you." Encrid suddenly sprang backward and changed his stance. With a swift, precise strike, he forced Mitch to retreat. Mitch was shocked. This isn't the same boy from before. He was faster, sharper, far better, but Mitch still believed Encrid was only trying to match him step by step. Encrid didn't care. He pushed forward again. Blades clashed. Strikes collided. Now Mitch could see at the master basics, the refined technique. Every deflection from Encrid was filled with explosive power. This wasn't a rookie anymore, he had become a dangerous fighter. Mitch pushed him back, but Encrid redirected his blade effortlessly. Now Mitch had to give the fight his full focus. One moment of distraction, and it would all be over. So he let go of thoughts, of outcomes, of training. All that remained was the cold steel in his hand. That raw dedication gave Mitch the edge. He deflected Encrid's strike and drove his blade straight into Encrid's chest. The battle ended in an instant. Lying there, Encrid remembered it was Mitch, the one who stopped the flag at the tall grass battlefield. Mitch introduced himself, platoon commander of the Great Scott unit. Encrid returned the gesture. He was now the scout commander of the Lilia Kingdom. The enemy began to surround them. Mitch warned them. "This boy's specialty is hiding." The others looked at Encrid and whispered, "He seems different." But when Mitch looked into Encrid's eyes, he saw a smile, because Encrid finally understood. It was never about the fear of death. What he had always longed for was a real rival, someone who would drag every last ounce of skill out of him. Mitch didn't like crazy people like that. Drawing his sword, he declared, "This day ends now." The next day, Rania explained, concentration means the feeling right at the moment of death. Encrid gave it a try, just a little focus. Rania thought he might give up the training. As always, Rem summoned them for battle, but Encrid's energy was completely different now. He said nothing, just walked forward. Rania could see the energy radiating from his body. He smiled and thought, today's warm-up needs to be more intense. The battle began. Once again, Encrid shielded everyone from the volley of arrows, shouting, "Duck." Everyone survived. But he didn't stop there. He turned to Rem and said, "Come with me." Rem frowned. "Are you insane again?" Rania jumped in. "I'm coming too." Rem snapped. "Do you have an arrow in your head?" Rania grinned. "If I don't move now, there will be." Encrid charged forward. The two of them slashed through the enemies ahead. He followed the same path and found Mitch once more. But this time, he recognized him. Smiling, he said, "Good to see you." Again. Mitch was surprised. "You came looking for me." Encrid nodded. "Fighting you. I fell in love with it." Mitch blinked. "No one's ever said that to me." "Does it bother you?" Encrid asked. Mitch shook his head but drew his sword. Again, Encrid tried once more to fall into that same deep concentration, where only the blade existed. But he failed again. Mitch pierced his chest once more. "You lost so easily," he said. "Did you really think you'd win just because you had some skills?" As Encrid died again, he realized my attitude was wrong. What I want can't be forced. He needed to merge with the fight naturally. So he repeated the day. Lost again. Repeated again. Lost again. Until one day on the 18th attempt he saw the blade coming. On the 28th, he entered deep focus in just a second. And on the 48th, he finally gained real insight. Rania had tried to teach him this feeling. And now, for the first time, Encrid truly saw the sword for what it was. Its beauty stunned him. He stopped Rania's strike effortlessly. "How did I assimilate it so easily?" he asked aloud. Now, he could no longer hear Rania's voice. Total concentration meant complete control of both body and blade. His power and technique had developed. So far, they no longer resembled his former self. Rania asked, "Where are you going?" Encrid answered quietly, "To meet the platoon commander. I have to clear today." When he met the ferry commander, she asked what he wanted. Encrid explained what he saw during the recon mission, soldiers from the Espen Kingdom calling in. Old man, a spellcaster. She leaned in, intrigued. "Tell me more." He told her everything she needed to know to win the war. The next time the fog came, every soldier was ready. Encrid's team charged without a word. He now placed his hopes on the commander's strategy because it was time to break through. As soon as Encrid stepped forward, he yelled, "I know you. I've wanted to fight you from the start. Today I will defeat you." He struck hard, but Mitch sidestepped and slashed back. Encrid deflected it cleanly. Mitch realized I'm in danger now. He barely blocked the next move. The two swordsmen clashed in a deadlock. "Have you been hiding your true skill this whole time?" Mitch asked. Maybe, Encrid replied with a faint smile. What's your name, Encrid? Mitch deflected another attack. I'll remember it. No need, Encrid said. I'll keep reminding you. When Mitch raised his sword, Encrid's eyes locked onto it. He noticed something. Mitch's entire weight was on his right foot. That meant the next strike would be diagonal. He was right. All those repeated battles, every death, every lesson had led to this moment. Mitch struck. Encrid struck back. Both blades stopped just short of each other's throats, but Encrid didn't stop. He followed up with a fierce slash. One Mitch barely dodged. Mitch had expected to kill him in just a few moves, but now he was the one struggling. He couldn't take it anymore. He knew his flowing sword style was defensive, but now he had to attack. He slammed his sword into the ground and swung it upward in a massive arc. The wheel cut. Encrid knew this technique. It had killed him many times before, but this time he was ready. He parried it perfectly. Mitch was stunned, though his face showed no emotion. Mitch came from the Harrier House, one of the 3 great houses of the Espen Kingdom, known for their brute strength. They recruited only the most skilled swordsmen. Mitch had come from a small region, but earned the Harrier name. At 15, he defeated 2 adult knights. At 18, a champion swordsman. By 22, he was the strongest fighter. In the city, he rose to become one of the top 3 fighters in the Greyhounds. Few dared fight him. Watching others train, he used to wonder, why push yourself so hard when my entire body is already skill? That was his mistake. Now all he could do was fall back as Encrid's blade drove straight into his chest. Mitch, covered in blood, cursed himself. You're weaker than me in strength. Even your sword skills are inferior. Yet, you won. Encrid just nodded. That was a fact. As Mitch collapsed, he thought, if only I'd trained more. What could I have become? As Encrid's sword neared his throat, Gran leapt between them and saved Mitch. He was quickly carried off the battlefield. Greyhound growled. We didn't expect this much damage from one man, but his punishment won't be light. Encrid knew he was surrounded now. He was exhausted, but fear had no grip on him. To him, this only meant one thing. It was time to break through the next wall. It was time to shatter the flag. Fire, came Greyhound's order. Arrows flew through the air like rain, but Encrid didn't flinch. Dodging them was now impossible, so he chose to endure them one by one as he charged ahead. Greyhound wasn't just a symbol of leadership. He was a warrior himself. Encrid felt the sheer power in just one strike from him. To win this fight, he knew he would have to die countless more times. But for now, there was only one goal: destroy the flag and escape. With that thought burning in his mind, Encrid hurled a knife at the flag. Even the slightest damage to the spell seal could break it. Greyhound noticed and rushed in for an attack. But Encrid rolled to the side and launched a second dagger, this time hitting the flag dead center. Elsewhere, Commander Fogme Fairy remained steady in her position, but her thoughts boiled with frustration. I asked for more troops. Got nothing. This kingdom is completely rotten. They had placed the weakest man in command of the front lines. At this rate, we're doomed, she thought. But then, as if on cue, the fog lifted, and in a flash, she darted into the enemy like lightning. Finally, she had her chance to turn the tide. Charge, she shouted, rallying the soldiers. With renewed energy, they screamed in unison and surged forward. The fog was gone. Hope had returned, but the question lingered in her mind: who broke the spell? There was only one person who could have. Encrid, battered, bloodied, barely holding on. Encrid stood alone. I messed up, he thought. I thought the fog lifting would bring my team to me, but no one's here. His strength was fading. Rem was still battling hundreds of enemies. His true target, the spellcaster. He wanted the caster's head elsewhere. Ranya had completely lost direction and accidentally drew his sword on a commander. Realizing his mistake too late, enemies laughed at Encrid. You crawl like a dog, you'll die like one. Just then, from the grass fields, a puma leapt out and saved him, striking just before a volley of arrows could rain down. The beast tore through enemies, shielding Encrid. He's protecting me? Encrid wondered, but the puma growled back, out of here. The one ahead isn't normal. Greyhound was growing weary. That's enough, he muttered. But suddenly a voice rang out. Take a break, Encrid. Now I'll show you what a real man looks like. Venz had arrived. He charged at Greyhound with full force. But Greyhound swiftly deflected his sword and slammed him to the ground. Venz, bruised but defiant, shouted to his troops, fire. Arrows flew, but they didn't slow Greyhound at all. A moment later, the puma lunged from behind with its claws. Greyhound was caught off guard but slammed the beast unconscious with the hilt of his sword. Then, He turned to strike at Encrid. Encrid could still see the blade coming, but he didn't have the strength to parry. So he used a technique Mitch had once taught him. Let the blade flow past you. And that's exactly what he did. Greyhound was stunned. That was Mitch's technique. For the first time in the heat of battle, Encrid felt joy. Vens launched himself again. But this time Greyhound didn't counter. Because right in front of him, an entire army was approaching. He had no choice but to retreat. But before leaving, he turned to Encrid and snarled, I won't forget your ugly face. One day, I'll make sure you fall. He ordered his troops to pull back. Vens then turned his attention to Encrid's bloody body. He began preparing to evacuate him. Even the puma, despite being unconscious, was to be brought along. Encrid, barely hanging on, insisted on taking the beast with him. Vens commanded the troops to retreat, and slowly Encrid lost consciousness. Fatigue and blood loss finally overtook him. In the haze of dreams, the boatman returned. You've won again. You really are stubborn. But tell me what keeps you going, even in this state. Encrid had made it through another day. Slowly, his eyes opened. Voices murmured around him. Some were shocked. How did he survive all that? Others said. He left without saying a word. Someone praised his fast recovery. The moment Encrid moved his hands, he felt something soft. He looked over. The puma, the same one that had saved him, was curled up next to him, asleep. Rem appeared and said, finally awake. We thought you were done for. Encrid sat up, still groggy. What happened? Jackson brought water. You lost a lot of blood, he said. Chris added, thank the medic. He healed you just in time. Otherwise, permanent damage. You're lucky, he smiled. Lady Luck's watching over you. Encrid looked down. Water spilled slightly. He realized he must have fallen right on top of the puma after the battle. One by one, everyone began leaving the room relieved that their commander had survived. Encrid, too, felt a rare peace. He had made it again. But Rem stayed behind, watching him. Encrid thought, is he interested in the puma? He asked. Do you want to touch it or something? Rem replied bluntly, I don't care about that animal. I want to know, how did you figure out the fog was a spell? Encrid hesitated. Should I tell him the truth if I reveal my ability? He might not believe me, but I can't lie either. He's been a loyal friend. He deserves trust. I had a friend, he was a settler, Encrid said. He used to talk about these things. I just guessed, based on what he said. What he didn't say was that the settler was Rem himself. So technically, it wasn't a lie. Rem stood up. Fine, if you don't want to tell me, don't. But don't get too caught up in spells. As he left, Encrid asked, and what were you doing during the fight? Rem replied, I went to the guy who set up the flags. Didn't like his face, so I blew it off. Encrid imagined the scene. In his head, that's when Grace arrived with a bag of 20 zars, trying to bribe the puma. The beast lunged and startled them. Careful, Encrid warned. He may look small, but if he gets mad, he'll tear you apart. Grace laughed. I just want to make 10,000 krona. Henry had told him, a beast with blue eyes comes from a lake that holds the earth's energy. Each claw is worth 10,000 krona. New ones keep showing up. Encrid was stunned. A single brown coin equals 1 krona. So 10,000 is more than gold coins. I've never paid that much to anyone. While Encrid was unconscious, his side had won the battle, but the momentum had died down. Both sides had retreated. Now everyone was recovering from their wounds. Encrid thought, will I ever be able to parry like that again? Maybe. I'll never know. Jackson showed up later. Don't stretch too much. Your body's still healing. I'm not doing anything heavy, Encrid replied. Just moving a little. Rania agreed. Yeah, that's all you should do. Rest. You'll heal faster. Then Rem bumped into Rania. You trying to pass your lazy habits onto the commander. And standing in the hallway's a dumb move. Rania immediately grabbed his sword. Come on, let's fight, Encrid asked. Tell me something. I used a technique I never practiced, only saw. Is that normal? Rim said. If you were using Heart of the Beast, then you must have sensed the enemy's movement. You could feel the direction of the sword, the force behind it. Rania added. You've already learned the basics. You've done single point concentration. That's why you could see more. But honestly, he chuckled, you got lucky. At your level, that technique usually works after 100 real fights. That's when it hit Encrid. The day he had just lived wasn't just one day. It had been hundreds of days filled with struggle, failure, and the will to rise again. What he learned hadn't come from just watching. He had earned it through pain, defeat, and sheer determination. Talent or not, he would grow stronger, Because he wanted to dot as Rania and Rem kept bickering, Encrid smiled. You two. You're both going to duel me. Rem laughed. People call me crazy. But you're real madness. Rania looked him over. You're in the shape, and you want to fight. Just then, the fairy commander stepped in. No one's dueling, she declared. The commander's condition isn't stable. Then she turned and asked, who broke the spell? Her eyes locked on Encrid. He had expected this question, but she was the company's chief commander. Yes, I did see the spell, Encrid replied. I was on patrol duty, and I've had some experience with them before. The fairy commander's eyes widened. There were 5 decoys. How did you spot the real one? I just guessed. He replied simply. She stared at him for a moment in silence, then turned around without another word, accepting his answer. Encrid raised a brow. Was that all you came to ask? The commander looked back and said, No. I came to see your face. Seems like fate wanted us to meet. Encrid couldn't help, but wondered to himself. What is she talking about? Meanwhile, Rem and Rania were starting to suspect something romantic between Encrid and the commander. Rania was particularly surprised as Encrid even have that kind of charm. Quickly, Encrid dismissed their assumptions. It's not like that. But then Grace walked over, grinning mischievously. This guy's perfect to open a host bar. I'll build the best one for you, just say yes. Encrid told him to shut up, but inside he was confused. Why would he even say that? She's our superior. This is awkward. Changing the subject, Grace shared some serious news. A squire from the Night Order had arrived. That shocked Encrid. A member of the Scarlet Cloak Night Order is here. The battalion they were part of was called the Cypress Division, named after an old knight. It was a branch of the Scarlet Cloak Order. Knights were considered the most skilled fighters across the continent. But the Night Order was more than just knights. It also included squires, servants, and students. When a squire proved himself, he could become a pro knight. Beyond that, the true knights existed, warriors who had surpassed human limits. Squires rarely fought without their knights, so if one had come alone, he was likely on the verge of becoming a pro knight. Suddenly, bells began to ring. Everyone readied for battle. Grace looked around and muttered, Looks like they've been waiting for this guy to show up. Rem turned to Encrid. You need rest. Seriously. But Encrid shook his head. My wounds are fine. I want to see that man fight. Seeing the determination in his eyes, Rem smiled. All right. Let's watch him in action. We're not doing anything major right now anyway. Soon after, everyone was lined up in battle formation. But no one was more excited than Encrid. Today, he would witness what it truly meant to be a knight. The squire moved alone toward the enemy. Seeing him, the enemy forces began preparing their arrows. But the squire didn't flinch, not even an inch. Fire! The enemy commander shouted. Thousands of arrows were launched at him. But he waited calm and unmoving until the arrows were almost upon him. Then, with a sudden burst of air beneath his feet, he crouched low. Rania, watching in awe, murmured, This is true determination. Like lightning, the squire dashed through the rain of arrows, storming into the front lines. Spears and shields couldn't stop him. With a single strike, he wiped out the enemy's entire front line. Encrid was both amazed and terrified. The enemy commander had nothing left to say, nothing worth saying. The squire moved without mercy, cutting down enemies, left and right. Terror gripped the enemy forces. Why should we die for nothing? They cried, beginning to flee. But the enemy commander screamed, Hold the line. The next moment, his head was flying through the air. Now, the squire stood atop the neck of the commander's fallen horse, dominating the battlefield. Everyone who watched had a different reaction. Rem simply said, No surprise. They don't call them war specialists for nothing, Rania thought. I should have at least been able to stop him. Jackson noted. They had 5 chances to stop him. Their commander was just stupid. Grace was just glad it would all end quickly. Now we won't have to do much. Meanwhile, Encrid was deep in thought. Is that the Ritis sword? No. It's a blend of heavy and swift techniques. The Ritis sword specialized in intricate techniques that trapped opponents with calculated moves. The heavy sword was pure brute force, cut down anything in your path. The confusing sword played mind games and set up ambushes. It was a branch of the Valen sword. The swift sword focused on speed and flowing motion. The soft parry style emphasized counters while defending. Encrid could see both heavy and swift techniques clashing within that squire's fighting style. He took a deep breath and calmed his mind. The truth, he realized, was that all techniques stemmed from the same source. If he could find the common ground between the 5 styles and treat the sword as a living thing, maybe he could master them all. He closed his eyes, The army charged. Rem and Rania watched as Encrid sat in deep concentration. Rem smiled. Our squad leader is about to overcome something big. No one disturb him. Encrid knew that understanding something didn't change the world. Understanding was just a wall sign of how far there was to climb. Soldiers ran past him, rushing into battle, but Encrid remained still. He was climbing the mental obstacle within. Screams, steel, and blood filled the air, but Encrid continued his ascent. The enemy began to fall back. Victory cries rang out. Encrid had made it to the top of that inner mountain. Now he knew the war was coming to an end. The next season would be busy. In the Principality of Espen, 3 powerful families ruled. Espen was furious with the sovereign empire for breaking the gentleman's agreement of no knights. Grey Wolf, whose real name was Harrier the Almighty Atkins, explained that the empire had made a frog into a general just to have an excuse to send in knights, but now they had no excuse for themselves. Espen cursed the frog general who had acted on his own. Atkins added, frogs are like that. Whatever the reason, they do what they want. If Spellale, into which they had poured so many resources, had worked, none of this would have happened. Espen lashed out at the Grahams. Their punishment was certain now. Harrier knew things wouldn't, and well for them. Encrid and his squad returned. The war was over. They reached the border guard post, a remote fortress city on the edge of the kingdom. Because of Espen's proximity, 1 in every 5 people here was a soldier. A ceremony was held to honor their will and determination. Encrid was called up first, for he was the one who destroyed Espen's spell ale. As he stepped onto the podium, many scoffed at him. He's weak. Must have done something with the boss to get this reward. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the crowd. Shut up. Another familiar voice added. Don't talk trash about him. He's above all of you. He's a real man. Encrid received a handsome reward, quite a large amount. Kremet was quick to ask, what will you do with all that money? Booze. Women. Both? Encrid replied, neither. I want to open a store. I want the best blacksmith in the city. Trace followed him all the way to the smith. He was going to spend all that money on just one sword. If you don't like the standard ones, just grab something from the battlefield, Trace suggested. Those work too. Encrid laughed. They work, but not well enough. And for Encrid, well enough simply wasn't enough. Encrid no longer cared what people thought of him. If he wanted to become a knight, he had to prove himself, especially his skills. Now, the time had come for him to take the soldier promotion exam. He was ready to leave behind the life of a foot soldier. Chris was surprised. You were never interested in promotions before, he said. Encrid replied firmly. One can't stay in the same place forever. Grace understood, but added, we'll need time to set everything up. In Narilla, the ranking system for soldiers was strict, designed to boost morale. Those whose power surpassed the ranking scale were considered special grade. Rank changed not just how others saw a person, but also how that person behaved. To get promoted, a soldier had to duel with 3 fighters from the target rank and defeat all of them. Everyone else watched, as if it were a grand betting match. Chris was the master of this event, urging the crowd to place their bets. Encrid's first opponent was arrogant. He mocked him. You're a low-rank soldier aiming for mid-tier. You got an award for your squad, and now you think you're a hero? Encrid knew the man was skilled, an agent from a renowned mercenary group. Chris's betting box overflowed with coins placed on the agent. On Encrid's side, there was only a single bronze coin. People were stunned. Who placed it? Grace smiled. You'll find out after the fight. Just watch. Until now, Encrid had grown stronger through death after death. But this time, there was no risk of dying. So he had only one chance to get it right. He focused his entire being. No distractions. Just pure resolve. He knew had this been earlier, he would have lost, but not now. Now, he would fight as if his life depended on it. The agent charged. Sword raised. Encrid considered using a parry move he had recently learned, but before he could act, his instincts took over. With a single stroke, he disarmed his opponent. The agent panicked, afraid for his fingers. Encrid said nothing. He ended the match by striking him with the hilt of his sword. How could he be so weak? Encrid thought. From the crowd, a gambler yelled at Chris. You must have bet on your commander. Chris, still in shock, said. I just tossed in a coin out of pity. Encrid wondered, did the agent lower his guard on purpose? Even so, why did the fight end so quickly? A mid-rank shouldn't be this easy. There was no time to think. The next opponent had already entered. One win didn't mean victory. Encrid recognized him. He was from the heavy infantry, one of the strongest fighters on Bat Island. The soldier twirled his spear to distract, then thrust it forward. Encrid sensed it was a trick, but still sliced the spear tip clean off. The opponent's face said it all, he had nothing left. Encrid delivered a powerful kick to his stomach. Second fight over. The crowd was stunned. The fights won effortlessly. Chris shouted, "Next challenger." No one came forward. Not even the ones who had mocked Encrid earlier. Andrew thought, I can beat him. Mac and I practice every day. But Mac said, don't go. He's so far ahead now. Even I can't win. Andrew quietly sat back down. Suddenly, someone shoved the trash talker forward. It was Rem. He'd been listening. Now he wanted to see if the man had any courage. The trash talker was sweating with fear, but still stepped into the ring to prove himself. Encrid had struggled every step of the way, first against the stabber, then the assassin, then Mitch Harrier, and the squad members who constantly killed him. Every day had been nothing but pain. But now, looking back, he realized just how far he'd come. His first mentor had warned him, never underestimate your opponent. Back then, it seemed irrelevant. He never imagined he'd be strong enough to look down on someone. The trash talker, visibly nervous, asked, "What's that expression on your face?" Encrid was just happy. He had become so strong that he could completely overpower his opponents. He raised his sword and attacked. In Narilla, only strength commands respect. And with this battle, Encrid would show everyone just how strong he had become. Within a few strikes, his opponent's sword shattered. Encrid paused, refusing to cut him down. He had already proven himself. The trash talker lost all control and wet himself in fear. From that day, everyone started calling Encrid by a new name, Spellbreaker, the one who shattered the flag. Andrew stood up and shouted, "Spellbreaker." The crowd joined in. The same eyes that once looked down on him now honored his strength. Grace congratulated him. "You're officially a medium-rank soldier." But Encrid said, "It's not time to celebrate yet. I'm going for the high rank." Grace was stunned. "You're still climbing." Just then, a man stood up. "You're quite interesting." Everyone noticed the eagle patch on his uniform. He was a border guard, one of the elites who directly served the crown, known as the Border Butcher, a title he had truly earned. He walked up to Encrid. "I'd like to duel you." Just friendly, not serious. Rem knew this wouldn't be easy. Encrid also understood. Border guards like greyhounds were possibly stronger than even Harrier. But a question crossed his mind: if there's no fear of death, can I still improve? He accepted the duel. The man was surprised. "So fearless? He's even more interesting than I thought." The lower-rank soldiers now cheered for Encrid. In infantry, real kings are born. The Border Butcher scoffed. "Fools. I'm infantry too. But this pride, it needs correction." And with that, he launched a fierce attack. Encrid saw his blade clearly and deflected it. The butcher was shocked. That level of concentration in a foot soldier. He tried to grab Encrid. "It ends now." But Encrid caught his hand midair and countered with a powerful sword strike from above. The Border Butcher realized, if this hits me, I'm dead. He dodged at the last second and counterattacked, but Encrid was ready. He caught the tip of the blade and delivered a solid kick to his gut. He had dropped his main sword. Now his opponent rushed in to finish it. But Encrid pulled out a short blade and attacked from the exact angle needed. Victory was inches away for both of them. Just then, the ferry commander appeared and with a single strike, stopped them both. Encrid noticed her team already standing behind the Border Butcher. Of course no one lets their commander die. Rem smiled. "That was lucky," the man said. "It was just a duel. Overreact again, then there'll be punishment." But what concerned Encrid the most was what happened during the fight. He had missed several of his opponent's movements. "If this had been a real fight, I'd be dead." The man sheathed his sword. "I didn't expect much, but I can't ignore your strength." He introduced himself. "Taurus, platoon commander of the Border Guards." Encrid introduced himself and shook his hand. The crowd was stunned. Platoon commanders held special rank. That meant Encrid was at least a high-rank soldier now. The celebration began, but Encrid's mind was elsewhere. And that's what Taurus liked the most. "We'll meet again," he said. "For now, goodbye." That same day, Graham, the 1st Company commander of the Heavy Armored Infantry, invited Encrid to join his company. It was his 3rd invitation. First from the 2nd Company, then the 3rd. Maybe because he had broken the spell well. Graham explained, "The 1st Company is the core of this battalion. This is a big deal, you should know that." Encrid understood. If he accepted, he would become elite. But even then he declined. Graham asked, "Is this because of the 4th Company's commander? I can talk to him if needed." Encrid smiled. "That's not the reason." Seeing his honest expression, Graham didn't ask further. Instead, Encrid made a suggestion: "Send Rem to your company." Graham laughed. No one wants to deal with that madman. But thanks to him, we won the last battle. He should stay where he is. Chris was stunned. You're getting so many offers. Should I start packing? Encrid just smiled. I'm not going anywhere. Everyone around him is stunned. Why would Encrid reject such massive offers? At this point, wherever he goes, he'll be treated like a VIP. Just then, Taurus returns. He has something important to ask Encrid. He wants him to join the border guards. Remy realizes that this is the biggest offer Encrid has ever received. Taurus had already sensed it during the battle, and Encrid has a hunger for tough fights. If you come with us, we'll push you to your absolute limits, Taurus says. That's the only way your full potential will come out. The rest of the teammates remain silent, as if they already know Encrid is going to accept, and he does. If it's about going to a place where training feels like hell, then there's no better offer. I don't just want to reach my potential, I want to surpass it. The weather shifts ominously, a bad sign for Rem, though he's from a tribe. He hates the cold with a passion, so much that he wants to fight it. He shouts, Encrid, bring a hot stone now. Encrid can't help but think out on the battlefield. Rem is a lion, but here he acts like a helpless kid. Orden, meanwhile, pushes Rem to train just to warm up his body. If you don't warm up, how are you going to fight? But Rem refuses to let go of his blanket. Orden turns to Encrid and asks if he wants to join the training. Encrid declines. He's on patrol duty right now. As he steps out, Rem yells from behind, don't forget the hot stone. Encrid is surprised, just a little cold earlier, and now it's full-blown winter. He heads to a busy zone where other guards are already patrolling. 2 guards are introduced, Jack and Bo. Today, the 3 of them are a team. Something about their names feels oddly familiar, but Encrid lets it go. Jack proudly says, you're working with the Spellbreaker today. Bo adds, I heard you were promoted. Lightning fast from low rank to elite. Encrid responds humbly, just lucky, I guess. Jack says he wants to see Encrid's true strength, proposes a light duel. Encrid agrees. After walking a bit, Jack grumbles about their bad luck, having to patrol in such horrible weather. Encrid silently agrees. It's freezing there. Walking through the marketplace when suddenly, a hooded figure emerges from the shadows and swiftly moves toward Encrid. He assumes it's just a child, but then the figure pulls out a dagger and stabs him in the chest. Before Encrid can react, Jack and Bo quickly shield him from the crowd, pretending he's just drunk. It was all a setup. All 3 were in. On it, the hooded attacker sneers, surprised. Greyhounds never forget a target. Encrid notices the attacker is half Fi. It must be someone Espen sent. Likely because he broke the spell. The assassin brutally pulls out the dagger and leaves Encrid to die. Jack says, Rutten, we're done here. Mission accomplished. Suddenly, everything clicks for Encrid. These were the wounded Recon soldiers Grace had mentioned. All of it was just a trap to get to Espen. Now it's 1 versus 4. But, he tells himself, I will win. He collapses, bleeding out. He dies right there. But soon, he wakes again, jolting up so fast it shocks Rem. But Encrid was only reacting with more energy. Outside, Orden is showering in freezing water, steam rising from his body. Encrid asks, what kind of training is this? Orden explains, in winter, it's essential to keep your body warm from the inside. That way, you're always ready, no matter the condition. Encrid asks him to teach it, because he couldn't even react earlier during the ambush. Now he understands why Jack and Bo were walking so close together. He plans to eliminate them first, then face Rutten. Orden cheers him on. Your muscles will scream if you don't maintain that position. Jack and Bo reintroduce themselves. But this time, Jack is impressed. You don't even have a coat on. Encrid just replies, I'm training. Thanks to Orden's harsh methods, Encrid's body is now ready. He knows Rutten will appear soon. Before Rutten can get close, Encrid attacks the others. One evades and draws his sword. Encrid knows Rutten will either run or attack. Either way, he needs to deal with these 2 first. But Rutten has another trick. He throws a knife from a distance, striking Encrid straight in the vital point. He hit from that far. Encrid thinks, even through the crowd, the precision is terrifying. The blade pierces his heart. It was faster than sound. Now, Encrid faces the ultimate challenge, to fight both near and distant enemies at once. But he feels thrilled. How would he prepare if Rutten gets close? He'll stab if he stays far. He'll throw daggers. This wall isn't complicated. He just needs a way to cross it. Encrid continues training, despite believing it might kill him. Ragnar and Rem watch him, wondering if it really is as hard as he claims. Meanwhile, Jackson enters the cabin and finds everyone collapsed, stretching on the floor. Panther gets the strange feeling he saw something he wasn't supposed to, so he quietly walks away. Encrid knows he must figure out a way to stop Rutten's deadly dagger. The speed and precision are far beyond any ordinary weapon. Jackson approaches and explains, "That's a whistling dagger." Encrid asks, "Why is it called that?" Jackson replies, "Because when thrown, it makes a whistling sound. And if thrown by an expert, the target doesn't even realize what happened." He advises Encrid to stay far away from it, but Encrid reflects, no matter how good Rutten is, if he can block it beforehand, Rutten won't succeed. He attacks. The others again, B evades. But this time Encrid grabs him and holds him like a shield in front of himself. But Rutten doesn't care. He throws 3 daggers at once. One hits Encrid, one B, and one strikes Jack right in the neck. Encrid is stunned, throwing 3 blades at his own allies. Maybe Rutten never considered them teammates at all. Rutten crouches and looks directly into Encrid's eyes. "You're pretty determined," he says. Encrid replies, "Good thing greyhounds never forget their targets." Rutten laughs, "You're completely insane." Encrid finally accepts. This challenge is far harder than it looks. The wall is truly a wall. Boatman tells him, "Laugh while you can. Soon you'll realize this is all just a sharp illusion." Encrid wakes again, jolting out of bed. Maybe this is all a blessing in disguise. He goes to Jackson and asks more about the whistling dagger. Jackson is surprised. Where did that question come from? Encrid demands answers. Jackson explains, "The weapon is made by pressing multiple thin blades together. That's what creates the whistling sound. It used to be called the dagger that can only be heard, because it's nearly impossible to see with human eyes." Encrid asks, "Is there any way to dodge it?" Jackson replies, "Impossible." Encrid persists, "But if someone really needed to?" Jackson is thoughtful. "You really need to know." Encrid nods. Jackson continues, "Once it's thrown, looking at the dagger is pointless. You need to watch the hand that throws it. The moment of the throw decides everything. There are tricks to hide the motion, but trained eyes can catch them." Encrid asks, "Can I learn this?" Jackson bluntly replies, "With your current skill, you won't get far." Encrid scoffs, thinks Jackson is underestimating him. Just then, Jackson asks if he wants to learn how to throw daggers. "If you're not confident, don't bother." Encrid sees the opportunity and decides to take it. Later, he meets Jack and Bo again, remembering Jackson's advice. Keep the body relaxed while throwing. Focus when the blade leaves the hand. Seeing and dodging are one and the same. As soon as Rutten appears again, Encrid immediately kills Jack. Bo doesn't even resist much. The others run away in fear. Now Encrid can finally focus on his real target. He watches carefully, studies when Rutten is relaxed and when he's focused. If he can protect his heart, maybe he can avoid dying instantly. He blocks the first dagger with his hand, but the second one pierces straight into his chest. He knew it was incredibly fast, but even if only for a split second, Encrid had seen it. Rutten was about to repeat the same phrase again, but Encrid already knew what was coming. Persistent lovers never forget their target. Rutten froze, in shock. "How do you know that?" he asked. Encrid smiled. "Every time we meet, I learn more about you. A few more encounters and I'll see through all your cheap tricks." The next day, Encrid didn't waste time. He took out the ones behind him immediately and turned his full focus to Rutten. This time, he observed how Rotten's hand twisted, how the dagger emerged, and understood the trajectory. Encrid blocked it cleanly with his arm guard. Rutten was startled by this sudden leap in Encrid's ability. Encrid anticipated the next strike. He knew Rutten would change directions. He dodged, but Rutten was swift. With a sharp pivot, he landed a blow straight to Encrid's chest. What a weapon, Encrid thought. I want to wield it myself. In his next life, Encrid began training with throwing knives. Jackson watched him with suspicion. What are you even doing? I'm practicing the whistling tiger technique. Encrid replied, I don't have the real tiger dagger yet, but I will. On the 8th day, a homemade dagger snapped and nearly struck Jackson. That day, Encrid successfully dodged Rotten's delayed strike. But then came a new threat. A sharpshooter struck him from behind. Another variable to consider. By the 9th day, Encrid eliminated the sharpshooter with a well-placed dagger. Yet Rotten's next move still caught him off guard. Encrid practiced relentlessly until he could throw daggers with decent accuracy. But something still felt missing. Where did you even learn to throw like that? Jackson asked. Encrid lied. I just saw someone do it and copied them, if that's true. Jackson replied, You're a genius. Then he asked, Ever heard of the throwing blade technique? He told him about someone named Gerg, who invented it. His weapon was the whistling dagger designed to be silent, nearly weightless. At first, Gerg made ultra-thin blades, but they were hard to control. So he redesigned them into today's whistling daggers. Encrid was stunned. Even this weapon had a legacy. You should have known this already, Jackson said. Your posture is perfect for throwing them. On the 10th day, Encrid made a bold decision to change the route. Jack protested. If this goes wrong, we'll all be punished. I'm the highest ranking one here. I'll take full responsibility. Encrid replied. He saw the two whispering in a corner. They clearly hated the plan. But Encrid wasn't going to play by their rules anymore. He knew the market was the perfect place for assassins to strike. Jack tried again. We should turn back. And what did betraying your country get you? Encrid asked. A few gold coins. Hearing this, both of them lunged at him. But, with just a clean strikes, Encrid took them down. As soon as he finished them off, Roten and the blue assassin arrived. They're a bit late, Encrid noted. But no matter. Roten threw for daggers at once. But Encrid now understood his hand movements. The blue assassin tried a sneak attack from behind, but Encrid eliminated him with a single throw. Roten saw an opening. Encrid's back was turned. He attacked, but Encrid blocked the dagger with precision. It wounded him, but didn't kill. Now, Roten was afraid. Who the hell are you? That's not something you need to know, Encrid replied. He wondered how many more of those beautiful daggers Roten still had. Roten realized Encrid could throw daggers too. Are you an assassin? He asked. I only have two left. Encrid admitted. I'm jealous. I've only got one. Don't joke around, Roten snapped. You're insane. The moment you throw that last one, you'll die. Encrid understood, but he wasn't worried. He couldn't see Roten's hands, but he could track his arms. If he kept his posture and eyes steady, he could still dodge. Roten threw two daggers at once. Encrid ducked beneath them and hurled his own, slicing through Roten's cloak. He lied. Encrid thought he had more, but so did Encrid. He threw his final dagger. Roten dodged it. But now, he was furious. You lied. Roten drew his blade. Encrid was surprised an assassin with a sword. But then again, there were no rules saying assassins could only strike from a distance. The problem was, Encrid had never seen this move before. A sharp upward slash. Roten believed it was over, but Encrid grabbed his wrist with lightning speed. This is your end. He stabbed Roten right in the forehead. Roten collapsed. It took only 10 lives. 10 brutal battles for Encrid to cross that deadly threshold. He looked at Roten's corpse, peeled off his cloak, and found a whole bandolier of knives. These should belong to me. Wearing the bandolier, Encrid walked up to the ferry commander. It was all just a coincidence, he said casually. The commander looked him over. Fought 3 men and only got a scratch. Some coincidence. Guess the goddess of luck is on my side, Encrid replied. She stared at him for a moment, then finally gave in. Get back to your post. Back at the squad lodging, he opened the door and an axe flew toward his face. He dodged it instantly. Clearly, this was Rem's doing. Your sneak attack didn't work. Encrid shouted. Rem laughed. Assassins are after you. I'm just helping you train. In return, Encrid handed him a steaming hot stone. Here, eat this. Rem thought it was a potato, but the moment he touched it, he burned his hands. Encrid noted. Your reactions have improved. Then he turned to Grace. I need a haircut. 10 coppers, Grace replied. 5. Encrid bargained. They settled on 8. While cutting. Encrid asked, did your prices go up or what? No squad discount. Grace said, if you want cheap, go to the city barber. No thanks, they mess it up. Encrid said. Snow kept falling outside. Grace complained. It's freezing out here. Rem hated snow. Even Regne agreed. Odin said, it's a test from the gods. Encrid looked around. What are we even doing out here? Now he started wondering, how did these assassins get into the border? Guard, how long have they been here? He asked Chris. Where did Jack, Bo, and Roten come from? Chris replied. Jack was a pickpocket, got caught and was forced to enlist. Bo insulted a noble to his face. Rem was shocked. They seemed so normal. Encrid nodded. Even Roten came from a failed merchant guild turned mercenary. Those 3 had joined just last year. Encrid figured they might all belong to the same guild, probably the Thieves' Guild. Despite the name, the Thieves' Guild was little more than a den for criminals. Anyone associated with it knew every hidden corner of the city. Encrid turned to Jackson and asked, do you know anything about the Thieves' Guild? Jackson looked surprised. Why are you asking me? Encrid shrugged. Just had a feeling you might know. Jackson replied. There used to be a contract before, but after the restructuring, everything got cut off. I don't know anything. Now, the haircut ended. Looking out at the heavy snow, Encrid said, "Damn, it's really pouring out there." Jackson added, "I'm heading into the city tonight." Ram quickly interjected, "You're just trying to escape from Cheval." "I'm not letting you run," Encrid suggested. "Let's do one thing, go on a mission. That way, no one has to." "Do Cheval duty," everyone agreed instantly, even Chris. But now Encrid needed permission. Rania mocked him, lazy even when it comes to asking for permission. They all went inside and waited while Encrid approached the ferry commander. "I believe the Thieves Guild is behind the assassins," he said, "and I need to act now." The commander looked into his eyes and sensed something odd. "You're not doing this just to skip out on Cheval duty, are you?" Encrid quickly denied it, but thought to himself, "Damn, this woman is sharp." As the team passed through the center of the city, Kreis started thinking, where did this talk about the Thieves Guild even come from? Maybe he meant the Gilfin Guild, but does he even know anything about them? Encrid certainly didn't. That's why they were all here to dig up information. Encrid told Jackson to find out where the guild members were hiding. The rest of the team would hold back. Jackson asked how he was supposed to do that. "Figure it out." Encrid said casually. Kreis didn't like that answer, it felt vague and irresponsible. But Jackson understood the plan, which only made Kreis more suspicious of him. They arrived at a small inn and had a hearty meal together. Kreis leaned toward Encrid and asked, "What if Gilfin turns out to be innocent?" Encrid didn't care. Even if they're not connected to the assassins, they're still criminals. They need to be dealt with the sooner, the better. Kreis had already become friendly with the server, Lisa. He whispered something in her ear while Encrid quietly wondered why Jackson hadn't returned yet. Jackson had the skills, sure, but no solid leads. Encrid realized maybe he'd sent him out with too little information, and a tinge of guilt crept in. Jackson, meanwhile, sat silently on a rooftop, eyes scanning the snowy streets. Snow fell steadily around him. Suddenly, he noticed a suspicious individuals. It gave him an idea. Back at the inn, Encrid asked Kreis, "Do you know that girl?" "That's Lisa, the cobbler's daughter. Her dream is to open a large inn in the capital." Encrid was surprised Kreis knew so much, but Kreis simply replied, "Maybe because she could be a potential customer someday." Eventually, Jackson returned, covered in snow and shivering, only to find the rest of the team warm and cozy, enjoying hot food. "Eat first," Encrid said, but Jackson shook his head. "We shouldn't wait any longer. We need to move now." Ram wasn't thrilled about going out in the freezing cold, but Jackson asked, "Do you want to bathe in your own blood?" "Because right now, that'll be the warmest thing you'll feel." Encrid agreed they had to go, but the snow made movement difficult. He looked out the window for 5 seconds and said, "This snow won't stop. Let's go." Kreis frowned. "Didn't you just say we'd wait?" "I've thought enough," Encrid replied. "Time to act." As they passed through the slums, two beggars jumped them with knives. Ram smiled, turned, and slammed one with his axe and the other with a punch. Then he turned to Jackson. "These your ratty little friends?" Kreis suspected they were part of the Gilfin Guild. Jackson found their hideout, but the door was locked. Odin stepped forward. "Let me knock." Politely, he tapped the door with his fist and it opened instantly. Ram stared. What kind of knock was that, man? Encrid didn't care. The door was open, that was enough. As they walked in, Ram asked, "What's the plan?" "Interrogate them. Subdue them first. Talk later." Encrid replied. Inside, the enemy realized Encrid was coming. The leader warned, "If news of our defeat gets out, it'll cause a mess. Let's take them out here and now." Someone hesitated, but he's got a full team with him. They're nothing special. The leader snapped. Odin knocked again, this time with a kick. Ram barged in, ready for a fight. But Encrid raised his voice. "Those who won't kill the weak, who are ready to surrender, and who don't want to die, drop your weapons and cross this line. The rest will be executed." Ram asked, "Why aren't we just killing them already?" Encrid smirked, "Just adding some flair. I think I look pretty cool right now." The leader couldn't believe a low-ranked soldier was giving them orders. Odin whispered, "They're too far gone, surrounded by their own darkness. Won't listen until they're crushed." Encrid decided to press harder. "Bring out your strongest. Let's settle this." That was exactly what the leader wanted. He summoned Y1, their most powerful swordsman. Y1 stepped forward, confident. "No one has ever defeated me," he thought. But as he advanced, Encrid sidestepped his sword and drove a dagger straight into his shoulder. It was a move from the villainous mercenary sword style strike while talking. Encrid had once fallen victim to it. Now he had mastered it. If that was their strongest, Encrid thought, then I don't need to see anything else. "One last chance," he said. "Surrender or die." His team just stared, unimpressed. All they thought was, there he goes again, showing off. Suddenly, one man threw down his weapon and surrendered. The leader lunged toward him, ready to kill. But before he could strike, Encrid drove a knife into his skull. The man dropped instantly. Ram couldn't believe Encrid was actually trying to act cool. Odin genuinely thought he was. Kryze was stunned. Jackson thought, not bad. But Rania just stood there in silence cringing. Encrid knew he was hamming it up. But it worked. The rest of the thieves dropped to their knees in fear. Rem asked, what now? Kill them all, they'll just cause trouble later. One of the thieves begged, please don't kill us. Some of our parents are sick, some of our families are poor. Encrid replied, doesn't matter. A crime is still a crime. The man said, if you have to kill someone, kill me. I'm Gilfin. Encrid was shocked. You're the boss. The one we just killed was just a thug. No, he was the boss. But I'm Gilfin. That wasn't his name. Encrid was completely confused. Kryze explained. They named the guild after a random guy so if the cops came looking, they'd catch him and everyone else could escape. Gilfin added, our boss was rotten to the core. But we're not like him. If you want blood, take mine. The others tried to protect him. Gilfin's a good man, some pleaded. Kill us instead. But let him live. Rem turned to Encrid. You're really gonna kill them all. Didn't think you were such a devil. Encrid snapped. You were the first one who brought up killing. Gilfin offered. Take everything in the guild's vault. Just let us go. Kryze's eyes lit up. There's gotta be some shiny coins in there. Encrid gestures toward the storeroom. But there's a problem, they need to find the key first. Before anyone can search, Odin calmly opens the door without a key, as if it were nothing. Encrid turns to his team and says, take whatever you need. Rem quickly grabs a thermal leather jacket, warm, practical, and perfect for the weather. Rania questions if it's even necessary. But Encrid finds something too, a flexible yet tough leather armor that he really likes. Meanwhile, Kryze pulls Encrid aside and quietly makes a suggestion. They should take over this guild. Encrid looks at him, surprised. Are you serious? You want me to become a thief? Kryze nods without hesitation. Yes, but the kind that doesn't kill. Think about it, even if we destroyed this guild, it wouldn't rise again for another 2 weeks. So why not run it from behind the scenes using Gilfin as our puppet? Everything feels too convenient, almost like it's all falling into place. Too easily. Encrid gets suspicious. What exactly did you tell that girl? How did you manage to gather all these guild members in one place? Kryze flinches, realizing Encrid saw through it. You figured it out, huh? We caught them all at once. And if you give the green light, I can arrange for a steady monthly payment in krona, and also squeeze information out of them. Encrid isn't interested in money, but then again, it doesn't hurt either. He gives permission, and Kryze tells Gilfin from now on, our guild won't kill anyone. The truly bad ones will be sent to prison, and we'll reform the guild slowly. But Gilfin panics. If we don't destroy the guild, we'll be hunted down. Our old boss worked for Aspen. He took their money. Every spring and fall, a frog comes to check on us. If he even suspects anything, we're done for. That frog, it's no animal. It's a monster. Kryze remains unfazed. Then why worry? We've got our own monsters too. Encrid starts to feel like their mission here is complete. Maybe it's time to head back. But Rem eyes him suspiciously, wondering if the others are still out there shoveling snow. Rania agrees that some things are still unfinished. Odin says he wants to stay a bit longer to spread the word of the Lord. Jackson adds that he has errands and will return the next morning. Encrid gets the message. He apologizes. I didn't know you all were so busy. The next day, he reports that his team has returned and the Thieves Guild is no longer a threat, but the ferry commander confronts him. So, did you enjoy skipping shovel duty? Encrid is confused. What is she even talking about? Word is, Encrid loves dueling. The commander challenges him to a sparring match right then and there. He agrees, but as soon as he reaches for his sword, she knocks him to the ground. Get up, she says. He does and gets knocked down again just as he tries to pick up his blade. Encrid is stunned. Her sword is so thin, it's almost like a whip. The beating continues until he's panting. Out of breath, the ferry commander watches in confusion. Wasn't this the same guy who took down 4 armed men and broke a spell? She thought he came from the future with superhuman reflexes, but now, he seems like a total amateur. She no longer knows who he really is, but one thing's certain. From now on, she'll be keeping a close eye on him. Encrid is furious with himself. He's trained endlessly with the sword, but never practiced unarmed combat. And now, he finally understands what he's lacking: martial arts. He heads to Odin, who's in the middle of training. Odin says the first requirement for martial arts is a strong body. Just then, someone yells in the background. Who ripped that tree out of the ground? Odin, cool as ever, replies. That's just part of my training. His method. Push the body to its absolute limits. This is called the isolation method, a brutal way of training so intense. It blurs the line between life and death. That's my specialty, Encrid mutters. Before long, his entire body feels like it's about to break. Odin explains the real secret: overloading. Muscles only grow stronger when they tear. Encrid looks like he's about to collapse, but Odin pushes him. Just 10 more seconds. That's your limit. Then Odin asks, don't you regret not starting this sooner? Encrid replies, there's no time for regret. What's gone is gone. I'm living in this moment, otherwise I wouldn't have made it past the first wall and I'd probably have gone insane. He begs Odin, teach me more, as long as I can still move. Odin is impressed by his determination and can't help but respect him for it. So, he agrees but says, today, you'll return to the post crawling on all fours as Encrid trains. Even the panther watches him closely. That night, Encrid crashes to the floor from exhaustion. Rem wonders if someone's been bothering him. But no, it was just intense training. Encrid lies on the ground and the panther comes to lie beside him. Rem jokes at this point. He needs a name. Encrid thinks for a moment. How about Hater Blackie Blue? The panther growls immediately. Rem laughs. Bro, that name is animal abuse. Encrid actually liked the name, but now that the panther's going to be living with him, he'll need to think of something better. That night, Encrid finds himself in a strange dreamlike world. At first, he assumes this is another of the fairy man's tricks, but the atmosphere feels different. Suddenly, a woman appears behind him. She says just one thing. My name is Esther. He wakes up, startled, but the real surprise is that the same woman is lying next to him in his bed. Embarrassed, Esther tries to cover up, but Encrid simply smiles and says, good night, pulling her close again. The next morning, things go back to normal. Rem asks if he's heading out again. Doesn't your body hurt from yesterday's training? Encrid says, actually, I feel lighter than ever. Esther used magic on me. She can't afford to lose him. She needs this man to free herself from her curse. She doesn't want Encrid throwing his life away in reckless training and dying halfway through. Rem teases him. Wait, did you meet a priest or something? No, Encrid replies. I had a dream about a woman. Rem's eyes widen. Your dreams have women in them. You don't seem the type. What was she like? Encrid thinks for a moment. Beautiful. Esther, secretly listening, smiles. At least his eyes work. She explains her story. As a magician, she constantly sought knowledge and magic. That's when the curse struck, turning her into a beast. Her powers were sealed. She was wandering through fields one day when she sensed another cursed presence in Encrid's. That led her to him. Now, she quietly watches his training. One day, Encrid accidentally calls her Blackie Blue, which enrages her. In the world of magic, names hold great power. Being called the wrong name over and over could erode her remaining strength. She had saved just enough to speak to Encrid, and now she's wasting it on someone way too pure-hearted. But maybe that's destiny. She knows Encrid is cursed too. His curse hasn't fully awakened yet, but it's far more dangerous than hers. It devours lesser curses. So as long as she stays close to him, her magical energy will slowly return now. Encrid is training one-on-one with Odin. He dodges some of the attacks but still takes quite a few hits. Odin's lightning speed is proof of his skill. Odin explains that in martial arts, your body must always be ready. Like swordsmanship, technique and training mean nothing without speed. Right now, Odin says, you're as fast as an old turtle, but your body's changing. And I can see it in your face. You don't want to stop. A month passes. The snow begins to melt. The snow had melted. Greenery had started to return, and Encrid's training continued uninterrupted. He was now sparring with Rem, who was genuinely surprised by Encrid's rapid progress. For the first time, Rem felt like he could engage in a proper duel with him. Later that evening, Encrid invited Regna for training. After the session, Regna noted, you still struggle a bit with adapting on the fly, but your fundamentals are top tier. Your muscle memory is so sharp that you could probably fight in your sleep. Encrid, catching his breath, smiled and said, don't worry, repetition is my specialty. After training, Encrid returned to his bed, but his mind was restless. This training is good, he thought, but I need real combat experience too. Just then, he heard a rustle to his left hand, instantly caught a blade that was aimed straight at his throat. It was Jackson, who congratulated him with a grin. You've improved a lot. At least now you won't die in an ambush. Christ grumbled, if you guys want to train, take it outside. You've turned this place into a dust storm. Encrid turned to Jackson and asked, "What are you doing up so early? Weren't you supposed to be out earning money today?" Before Jackson could respond, Esther stirred awake with a soft noise, and Christ immediately pounced to her side, hoping to find a valuable claw worth 10,000 krona. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It was the ferry commander. She looked straight at Encrid. "Come with me," she said. "The snow's already melted." Encrid replied casually, but it didn't matter. A new mission awaited him. It was from the Mercenary Soldier Board, a well-known policy tied to the soldier ranking system. It allowed trained soldiers to be hired cheaply by civilians. These mercenaries were affordable, disciplined, and reliable, hence the system's growing popularity. For Encrid, it was a perfect opportunity to test himself in real situations. There was no reason to refuse. Meanwhile, a tired guard, just off his shift, was looking forward to some rest until he spotted Encrid walking beside the ferry commander. Encrid asked her, "How many people can I take with me?" "3 total," she replied. "But bring only one with you for now. The third will be me." Encrid was taken aback. "You're coming on the mission yourself." He wanted to know why. Nearby, the guard eavesdropped eagerly. Rumors had already been flying about how often Encrid and the ferry commander were seen together. Some whispered they were dating. The ferry commander noticed his expression and asked directly, "Do you have a problem with us doing a mission together?" Hearing that, the guard practically melted and the gossip spread even faster. Those who knew each other before joining the army, someone said. Word is they already have kids, another added dramatically. The next morning, while Encrid trained as usual, other soldiers couldn't stop talking about the supposed romance. Most agreed they actually looked good together. Later, when Encrid returned to the barracks, Rem teased him. "Look who's finally home. Been months. Your kid could pop out any day now." Encrid's face twisted in panic. "You're all misunderstanding, it's just stupid rumors." Christ joined in the teasing. "Why so embarrassed? The truth will come out eventually." Regna, on the other hand, seemed genuinely happy. "If she's staying with you, you both can train together." Odin even prayed for their blessed future. Encrid couldn't help but feel his own team was mentally torturing him. Rem added fuel to the fire. "So, when's your little date? I'll tag along as the third wheel." Encrid was puzzled, then realized Rem was talking about the mission. But Rem quickly noticed something. "Wait, if I'm not going with you, then who is?" That's when Jackson stepped forward. "I'm ready. Let's go." As they exited, Rem shouted behind them, "You picked that rat and left me?" Training scrambled your brain, hasn't it? But Encrid knew this was a tactical decision. If the commissioner got angry, Rem would probably be the first to throw an axe at her. He didn't want that kind of chaos. Jackson, walking beside him, asked, "Did you choose me because I won't make a scene?" "That's part of it," Encrid admitted. "But the real reason is you've done missions like this before. I needed someone reliable. And you're the guy." Jackson smiled, clearly pleased, then offered one piece of advice. "Don't give your whole heart to a woman. You'll only end up hurting." Encrid met his gaze firmly. "In that matter, I don't need advice." He knew Jackson had heard the rumors, and things were about to get awkward, just as expected. The ferry commander eventually asked, "What exactly did we do that made people think we already have children?" Encrid instantly denied it. "None of that's true." Behind him, Jackson stifled laughter. Encrid glared. "You dare laugh in this situation?" The commander then asked, "Do these questions make you uncomfortable?" "No," Encrid replied. "Then, like them." He was caught off guard with no answer. She pressed again. "What exactly do you enjoy about this?" Encrid was baffled. Why is she asking all this out of nowhere? Before he could respond, the mission's commissioner arrived, interrupting the moment. The ferry commander looked slightly annoyed. Things had just started getting interesting, and now the fun was over. Encrid couldn't tell if she was joking or serious. Her face gave away nothing. The mission: to guard the children of a wealthy merchant. During the succession process of the rock fry trading company, Encrid assumed he'd meet a heavyset, rich merchant, but stepping out of the carriage was a graceful, composed woman, Leona Eris, the successor herself and their protection target. During the journey, no one really spoke to Encrid directly. Even basic instructions were passed through her maid, who informed them they'd be staying at an inn until the other heirs arrived. Encrid recalled the importance of small details: age, gait, eye movement, critical in analyzing a threat. He began observing everyone around him. The guard walking ahead was left-handed. Her gait was heavy, meaning she carried a large weapon. Her sword alone showed she had raw power. Still, none of them seemed to be of any special rank. Even if the analysis was incomplete, it was enough. For now, to pass time, Jackson suggested a game identify sounds. They both tested their auditory skills, but Jackson outperformed him. He trained for this at the inn. Leona and her guard took the upstairs room, instructing Encrid's team to stay below. The fairy commander joined Encrid and Jackson for the game, but Encrid was quickly eliminated, no match for them. But the sounds they were now hearing weren't playful anymore. Someone was sneaking toward them with blades drawn. An ambush had begun. The three instantly sprang into action. They had suspected something might happen. The other guards froze in fear. One attacker rushed Encrid, but he took him down effortlessly. Screams echoed from upstairs. In missions like this, the commissioner's safety was top priority. Encrid dashed up the stairs, only to be met by a flurry of knives. Jackson stepped in behind him, blocking every blade with a stool. The fairy commander cleaned up the rest downstairs. The assassins began to worry, but they still had numbers on their side. Watching Jackson fight, the fairy commander realized this guy was stronger than Encrid. In fact, most of the team probably was. Yet they all followed Encrid's orders. They trusted him. Who was the one who assembled such a team? Fascinating. A man lunged at her. She ended him effortlessly with just a swing of her sword. Encrid, too, tore through anyone in his way. These petty ambushes didn't bother him anymore. After fighting Crine and the half-fairy assassins, this felt like child's play. One attacker pounced. Encrid saw the perfect opportunity to test his new body skills, though still a bit slow. His movements were much more fluid now. The difference was clear. He was stronger than before. Suddenly, Leona's guard was thrown out of the room. Encrid seized the moment and rushed inside, finding an assassin leaning over Leona, while her maid desperately tried to protect her. He considered using his whistle tigers, but this enemy seemed weak to poor for any sophisticated moves. If he moved fast enough, he might be able to stop him, but that kind of speed would require a lot of power. He remembered seeing someone do that once.